Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're focusing on someone really interesting, Ben Ratliff. He's an American journalist, a critic,
Right.
and his work gives us, well, a kind of map for understanding how we listen, especially now in this, chaotic digital age.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
We're looking beyond just what he wrote about to how his whole career sort of led him to think about the architecture of listening itself.
That framing is spot on because, Ratliff, he's got decades of really foundational work, especially at the New York Times.
Right.
But maybe his biggest contribution, the thing we really want to trace today, is this philosophical shift he made.
Okay.
How he went from being like the authority on the jazz canon to analyzing, even criticizing how we consume music digitally. He basically gives us a way to handle all this information overload.
Okay, let's unpack that journey then, because we're talking about someone who spent, 20 years?
A full 2 decades, yeah.
At the Times covering jazz and pop. That kind of adaptability, well, it seems pretty rare. What sort of background sets someone up for that? To be both, a historian of a specific genre and almost a prophet of global pop.
Well, his biography, it suggests this kind of natural cultural flexibility. He was born in '68 in New York City.
Okay.
But the interesting bit is English mother, American father. And he grew up between London and Rockland County, New York.
Ah, okay. So diverse settings.
Exactly. That early exposure to, different cultural vibes probably helped him move easily between let's say, the structure of jazz history and the sheer dynamism of pop music worldwide. And academically, he's solid. Got his BA from Columbia in 1990.
So the foundation's there, but the New York Times job, that's really where he becomes central, isn't it? 1996 to 2016. That 20-year stretch, that covers everything. The internet explosion, the CD dying out, streaming being born.
Totally. And think about the tension he was navigating there. On one hand, he's defining the jazz canon, a genre rooted in performance and recordings.
Right, physical things.
Physical things. And on the other, he's grappling with MP3s, which felt so ephemeral then, and eventually Spotify playlists. He wasn't just writing. He was like living through this huge technological shift.
And he hosted the podcast too?
Yeah, the Times podcast from 2012 to 2016. So he was right in the middle of the conversation about taste, trends, algorithms, all of it.
And the fact that his early work got recognized pretty quickly, what does that tell us?
It just confirms his authority, really.
Yeah.
In 2005, he got the Helen Dance Robert Palmer Award.
Okay.
From the Jazz Journalists Association for excellence in writing. That award, it sort of marks the peak of his career as, let's say, a pure genre critic.
Right before the shift.
Exactly. Right before his focus started moving towards this cultural methodology. It's a fascinating pivot point.
And now he teaches this stuff, right? He's taking that analysis into the classroom.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense if you think about it. Teaching is kind of the natural next step for his later work. He teaches cultural criticism at NYU's Gallatin School. So his career shows this cycle. Critic defines the art, then the critic defines the method of consuming it, and then the educator teaches others how to use that method.
That tees up his books perfectly. Looking at his 5 major publications, you can really see that evolution you mentioned, from genre expert to almost philosophical inquiry.
Yeah, definitely. And to make it easier for you listening, we can group them, maybe into, say, 3 main themes, starting with those definitive jazz studies.
Okay, let's start there. The canon. What were his big contributions to jazz history?
His early stuff was really about providing structure. First, the New York Times Essential Library, Jazz, that was 2002. It was basically
greatest hits list.
Sort of, yeah. A critic's guide to the 100 most important recordings, Ratliff defining the landmarks. Then in 2008, he did the jazzier Conversations Over Music. That shifted things a bit, using interviews with musicians to try and get inside the creative process.
That focus on process, on sound, yeah, that does seem to hint at where he'd go later. And then the big biography that really cemented his reputation.
Right, that's theme 2, critical biography. His 2007 book, Coltrane, The Story of a Sound. It wasn't just a history. It was this really deep dive into Coltrane's sound, his legacy.
And it got serious recognition.
Oh, yeah. It was a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award. That really showed he had the depth, the analytical skill to take on a giant like Coltrane.
Okay. So established jazz authority, defines the canon, writes a landmark biography, and then he starts looking critically at the digital age that was, in a way, making that old idea of a canon feel different. less fixed.
Exactly. Which brings us to the third theme, the big philosophical evolution.
The migration.
Yeah, the critical migration. And it's perfectly summed up in his 2016 book, Every Song Ever, 20 Ways to Listen in an Age of Musical Plenty. That title. That's the key to understanding why he's so relevant now.
Right.
Because he flips the script entirely. He's not telling you what records are important anymore. He's teaching you how to even deal with the sheer amount of music that's out there.
The age of musical plenty, it sounds great, but you're saying there's a catch. What's the paradox Ratliff sees?
Well, he basically argues that infinite choice, it can lead to paralysis.
Uh-huh.
If you can listen to literally anything, you might end up not listening deeply to anything, or you just let the algorithms decide for you.
Right, outsourcing tastes.
Precisely. So his book is a direct challenge to that reliance on algorithms. It's like a manual for taking back control, for active, intentional listening.
Can you give us an example? Like, what's one of these 20 ways he suggests?
Okay, sure. One method he talks about is listening for duration. Think about it. In the streaming era, we're trained by the skip button.
Oh, yeah. 30 seconds, maybe less.
Right. If it doesn't grab you instantly, you're gone. Ratliff says, try deliberately listening to things that are either really short, forcing you to focus intensely, or really long, forcing patience. The whole idea is to break that habit of just wanting immediate gratification, that fragmented attention span we all get. Yeah.
That's powerful, because it's not just about music, is it? It feels like a critique of how we consume, well, everything online. It all moves so fast.
It absolutely is. Another one he explores is listening for silence. We're so used to music just filling space, right? Background noise.
Yeah.
But if you consciously listen for the gaps, the rests, the moments where there isn't sound, it totally changes how you perceive the sound itself. He wants you to find the structure underneath the tune. These aren't just like clever tricks, they're mental exercises.
To make you an active participant.
Exactly, not just a passive receiver of some playlist.
And he's still exploring these ideas, even connecting listening to, like, running.
Yeah, his upcoming book, Run the Song. Run about listening, for 2025, it shows he's still pushing these non-traditional connections, looking for insight through rhythm, meditation, physical activity, seeing how listening fits into everything else we do.
That breadth is pretty remarkable. Let's look beyond his books for a second. Where else did his voice show up? What other platforms sort of amplified his ideas?
Oh, the range is huge. Which really shows his ability to connect with different audiences. You see him in really prestigious places like the New York Review of Books, Granta, Lingua Franca.
So high intellectual culture.
Definitely, but at the same time...
He's also in Rolling Stone and Spin.
Exactly. And the Village Voice, Slate. That versatility moving between classical jazz analysis, highbrow cultural critique, and mainstream pop discussion, that's why he stays relevant. His ideas aren't just stuck in some academic corner. They get out into the wider culture.
And we know this influence is ongoing because people are still talking about his work, engaging with it in, modern digital spaces. It confirms he's still a key voice on modern consumption.
That's kind of the ultimate test of relevance, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's the person people turn to when they want to connect that critical thinking with technology today. Pitchfork interviewed him about every song ever.
Right.
So he's translating his ideas for the music blog world. And maybe even more telling, he was on a 538 podcast talking about music algorithms.
Wow, okay. So data journalists are engaging with his critique now.
Yeah, it shows his work really bridges that gap between the humanities, like music, and the math behind the modern attention economy.
So let's try and sum up Ratliff's trajectory. He starts as this essential jazz critic, spends 2 decades at the Times meticulously building up the canon.
Diligently.
But his biggest impact, arguably, is that later shift, redefining how we even engage with music in this digital world, leading to things like Every Song Ever.
And the core insight for you, listening to this, is really that Ben Ratliff's value isn't just the jazz he reviewed or the history he wrote. It's the methodology he developed. He gives us tools.
Tools to be better listeners.
Better, more active consumers of culture, yeah. He teaches us how to sift through all the noise and find meaning when we're just saturated with information.
Okay, so since Ratliff is so focused on these critical listening methods, let's leave you with a final thought based on one of his ideas. He suggests listening for repetition not just in music, but anywhere.
Right. Patterns.
So think about this. How often are the news feeds or the social media algorithms you use just playing you the same basic song, the same viewpoint over and over again? What does that kind of mechanical repetition tell you about how your own attention is being structured? And maybe more importantly, what's one critical choice you could make today to consciously break that loop? Something to mull over as you navigate your own age of, well, informational plenty.